In line with the federal government's reformative plans aimed at accelerating the pace of economic recovery post-pandemic era, enhance gainful employment, and overall the institutional and regulatory framework of the Nigerian advertising industry, the Minister of Information and Culture, Mr. Lai Mohammed, has approved the implementation of the Advertising Industry Standards of Practice, AISOP. The AISOP provides the minimum standards of a standardized commercial term for agencies, advertisers, media houses, advertising service providers, and stakeholders in the matter relating to the business of advertising and marketing communications in the country. It will interest you to know that AISOP is a business framework that seeks to improve mutual respect, eradicate unfair advantage, unethical competition, and inequitable policies between relevant stakeholders in the advertising and marketing communications industry in Nigeria. But in a swift response to this development, also today, we got a press release, the Advertisers Association of Nigeria, ADVAN, rejecting the implementation of this new standard of practice, indicating that it makes an unconstitutional attempt to infringe on the rights of private entities to determine their contractual terms. Furthermore, as a principal benefactors of advertising services, ADVAN says that its role in output with regarding to this AISOP has not been fully onboarded, as the current AISOP is void of critical elements that protect the rights and interests of the ADVAN community. Well, let's make sense of this and, of course, understand what all of this means to the advertising and communications, of course, marketing sector. Very strategic. I have joining me, he's live in the studio, he's the Registrar, Chief Executive Officer of the Advertising Practitioners Council of Nigeria, APCON, Dr. Olalekan Fadolapo. Good afternoon, Dr. Fadolapo.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to you.
It's good to have you here.
My pleasure.
First, I can see that the sector is going through a lot of reforms. Let's be very factual about that. But why? Let's talk about this AISOP. Why AISOP? And what is what's the part of what part of advertising reform is this?
Okay. Fine. The industry is going through a major reform. We're looking at every element and every aspect of advertising. Now, the practice, the business, and every other thing associated with advertising in Nigeria as an industry. Don't forget one, agencies play in the SME sector. And SME is strategic to the growth of any economy. So the government concentrates more in developing the SMEs, because if you have strong SMEs, you are definitely sure that your economy will be strong. Now, what we have is a directive from the federal government. Post-pandemic, all regulators look at your sector, come up with policies that will drive the SMEs, empower them, ensure that there is stability in that sector, so that the general policy can be supported. So what did we do? We set up a committee of sectoral groups. And we said, come together. The business of advertising is suffering. Let's look at those elements that we think can improve the sector. So we identify some areas that we think we need to look at. How will this impact on the economy as a whole? For example, the issue of media rates. What is the media rate procedure in Nigeria? What is it in other crimes? And how do we match this? And how will this now be beneficial to Nigeria as a country, Nigerians as people, and the economy in the long run? So for us, we came up with the policy, not APCON directly. We set up a committee, they came up with a recommendation, what happened in other crimes. Now we have to deregulate media rates. What do I mean by that? First of all, there is a body we call HASG. That body also has another committee they call ISG. Now, if TVC wants to increase their media rate, TVC will write to HASG to say we want to increase our media rate. Then they will pass it to ISG. ISG will cap it. You can't go beyond this. You can't do this. You can't do that. Now, who are the players in this sector? In the advertising industry, we have what we call the tripod. These are the pillars upon which the advertising business stands on. We have the clients, the advertisers, we have the agencies, and we have the media. The media can either be print or broadcast. Now, if the advertisers are increasing their rate, who caps it? Nobody. Why would you say the media should hold on their cost and you want to increase their rate when the two of you are operating in the same market? Now, when it comes to international media, these same rules that you want to infringe on impose on the Nigerian media, do you impose same on foreign media? The answer is no. Nobody determines when CNN will increase their rate. Now you will see Nigerian companies putting ads in those places. So what do we say? Deregulate media rates. Let TVC be able to increase their rate when they want to, based on cost of production and everything, so that they can still stay in business. Yes. There will be sustenance there. And if you now think their rate is overpriced, there are options. So when you want to buy media on social media, you pay in dollars. But now, don't cap it. You don't have that right again. That's one of the elements of AISOP. Don't cap anybody. Let free market enterprise move.
Demand and supply?
Demand and supply. Now, before now, if you are increasing your rate, you need 90 days notice. Technology has a role to play in media planning. So AISOP is saying that from 6th of October, you need only 1 month notice. Issue 1 month notice out, because it's not a mass market. So issue 1 month notice out so that disruption within the media planning can be taken care of. So the situation we have is the advertisers or some companies coming to say, no, we still want to be part of that conversation. And the question is, do you do same to CNN? Do you tell CNN that if you are increasing your rate, we need to have an engagement with you so that you can know where or what extent to go? Or do you ask CNN how many days you have to? They give you 90 days notice. You don't. Then the second one has to do with credit policy in the industry. Understand one fact, that this is SME and this is very strategic. We just don't want to start calling out names. 2 weeks ago, a multinational wrote to agencies and say, we are giving you 120 days credit now. Meaning that if we buy media from you, it will take us 120 days to pay you back. Now, these same people buy media internationally. They buy media on social platforms and they pay in dollars and they prepay. So they come to TVC now and say, TVC, we want to buy media, but we will pay 120 days. Meaning that you will not get your money until 120 days. Meaning that that's your legitimate money. Don't forget that advertising income amount for the bulk of revenue.
Yes.
Now, it means that if you are going to be paid from that money, you have to wait for 4 months before you get your salary. Now, we said no. This thing has to align with best practices and some existing laws in Nigeria. 45 days. So there's a pushback to say this is contractual terms between us and those people, so you should not intervene. But don't forget that one of the role of regulator is to moderate.
Yes, true.
There are personal terms between CBN and the people borrowing loan. I mean, between banks. But CBN will moderate interest rate. So those interest rates revolves around CBN guideline. A telco cannot just wake up and say, I'm increasing the cost of my SMS to 7 naira. It has to seek approval from NCC. So NCC moderate the rate that it happens. The Kenya electricity company cannot just increase electricity rate. So what we are saying is that as a regulator in that sector, we need to have a say. We will give you minimum framework with which you can work. Some companies, some very highly responsible companies in Nigeria, they do 30 days. But some wants to insist, and they are still saying that subject to cash flow. Meaning that 120 days can be pushed. I was with a managing director last week who was complaining that my invoice is still with my client. And this is 6 months. Now, if that is your legitimate income, and that is the only way, how do you cope? Do we continue to encourage corporate slavery, unfair advantage, destroying the texture of Nigeria? The federal government policy will not work, will not sync with the populace if we continue to allow this. So what we are saying is that what happens in other countries, let everybody align. Let us have 45 days. These companies will go to SA, South Africa. They will comply. They will align. They will do the payment as at when necessary. They will go to Kenya. They will do the 45 days. They will go to Ghana. But they are saying no, in Nigeria, we are pushing back. You can't regulate our individual terms. So for us, we felt like this cannot happen, because you cannot go and do this and destroy our own economy. No. So this is more like a federal government's position, and we cannot just budge. We cannot just open our hands as a regulator. We need to ensure that there is stability in the. Look at what happens in other crime. Everybody is happy. Things are done the best way. The same people that will come and complain that these are not, they will be the one to say we are pushing back.
I wanted to look at the major highlights, but you've already started touching on the major highlights of AISOP. So can you take us through more of it? Maybe they understand the highlights of this. Maybe some of them might have a rethink, because tell us more about the highlights of AISOP.
Okay, I've spoken about the media race. Yes. I've spoken about the credit policy. Yeah. For example, the AISOP proposed now that if you are going to pay invoice on invoice, not on account. Now I'm owing you on invoice 100,000 or 10 million, on invoice 2 50 million, on invoice 3 30 million, making 90 million, and I say I pay you on account 30 million. The media that you are owing is there. They won't understand that you are just paid on account. Let us be able to trace payment to invoice. We will know who is responsible for. Don't forget that in this report, everybody is guilty. The media is guilty. The agency is guilty. The clients are also guilty. Now, for us as a regulator that are stepping in, let there be sanity. Let us be able to trace each payment to which. Now, we are also, the AISOP introduced disengagement policy. You are a client. You hire an agency. You fire that agency. The agency is owing media A. You engage another agency. That agency is going back to that media A to buy media. Now, what AISOP is proposing is that let there be reconciliation after firing your agency. So that media A will know that this is the money that is being owed. And this is the transfer of asset and liability after every disengagement can be clearly spelled out. Now they're saying no, there's confidentiality. There's no need for confidentiality if you are disengaging. If you don't have anything to hide, bring everything to the table. We have paid you for this invoice. You are the one owing the media. So let us know who is at where. There's also an engagement procedure. If you are going to engage an agency, you don't need to call like 100 agencies. There's profile presentation. When you want to engage an agency, let them come and do profile presentation. After that, go there, do meet and greet. After that, you can now call presentation. So for every presentation you are calling, there must be a rejection fee. A rejection fee of 1 million. In South Africa, I can confirm to you that the rejection fee is as high as 5 million. Now, in Nigeria that we are talking, there are highly responsible multinationals. I just don't want to start mentioning their name. Recently called a pitch, and the pitch rejection fee was 4 million. We're not saying maximum. Cost of making a presentation is high, is huge. So 1 million naira is less than $2,000 if you put it in dollars. But we are saying that, okay, for every pitch, there must be a rejection fee. These are some of the things, and this thing takes effect from 6th of October. What we are saying is that from that day, all new POs, either media purchase or their local purchase, all new purchase orders should align with AISOP.
Before we go to that, let's now look at the benefits. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the benefits, of course, to the economy and to the industry itself. What do you think will be the benefits if this is fully implemented?
Number one, in the immediate, within the next 6 months, AISOP has the capacity of creating not less than 100,000 jobs directly. Let me tell you what happens in other crime. Modeling in other crime is a profession. It's a profession. Some people live as a model. Voiceover is a profession. Some people, they make money from their voice. Now, if we are able to implement this AISOP very well, now look at the models that we have in Nigeria. Most of them, they are living in penury because the world has become a global village. Yeah. So it's easier for you to now do a campaign somewhere, start imposing it on us and those things like that. No, this has to, the whole reform, the element that is dealing with imported advertisement, we are approaching there. The Independent Television Producers Association of Nigeria, they will tell you that business have not been fine. The mortality rate in that area is also high. All in the name of globalization. But you know that in globalization we have localization, situating your local community within the globalization in such a way that Nigeria as a country, Nigerians as people, Nigeria economy will benefit from it. So what we are pushing for is that this whole thing should galvanize development in the industry. We will create jobs. There will be stability, there will be professionalism, we will attract more talents to the industry, majorly.
Now, almost wrapping up now, as a regulator now, how do you intend to implement AISOP?
Number one, let me say that there is the legal aspect of it, there is the moral aspect of it, and there is the government aspect of it. The legal aspect is that in line with our law, we have the power to do what we are doing, and we have gotten the approval of the Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed. We have his approval to proceed with this. The government policy is for all regulators to come up with policies that will galvanize their sector, which we are doing. The moral thing is that we are stopping on exploitative policies of most of these organizations. Now, we have established a unit in our office. Initially, it was supposed to be debt resolution, but is now AISOP implementation unit at the registrar's office. So if there are people that have issues and challenges with this, if you have your challenge with the advertiser or anybody trying to, we have told the media houses, we have told the advertisers, we have told anybody involved in this. If we have any issue with this, we're going to escalate it. The ministry has given us a strong legal backing. The legal department of the ministry is behind us, and we have reached out to other government agencies to support this. It is an economic time to demand for a media or an agency 120 days to pay their bills. So the implementation for us is we've had resistance, but we are not going to budge, because the generality, the benefit is a multiplier effect on our economy. So we are pushing ahead. We're going to push this, and we have the support of the federal government to move ahead with this.
So almost finally now, what about the engagements with other stakeholders that actually, of course, look at like the press release I had. So what kind of engagements as the regulator, like you said, you always look for a soft landing for everybody and let everybody at least be able to meet at a particular point. So what are you thinking with regards to all other stakeholders in your industry?
Number one, you know, like this policy, we set up a committee with representatives of all the sectoral groups in the industry.
Okay.
And let me say there are 7 sectoral groups that were in attendance. And 6 after the sectoral group came out to endorse AISOP.
Okay.
So 1 said no, we did not agree. If we are to put it to vote on that note,
of course.
I think there was also a press release from HASG last week, that's S of Advertising Sectoral Group, endorsing the AISOP and stating that we are fully behind it. I remember when I was appearing at one media house, the Broadcasters Organization of Nigeria came and said, we want to give you solidarity to say that we are pushing this forward. So we may not align with everybody, but I want to challenge anybody that thinks that this is not in the best interest of any economy to come and tell us what happened is another crime. Even the international law states that where your international policy conflicts with the local policy prevails. I know there are responsible multinationals out there. There are responsible companies out there that does not agree with this exploitative approach policy, this secondary slavery, corporate slavery, and they are not part of this whole conversation. But we don't want to get to a point that we start mentioning corporate names to say this is it. I've set out some intelligence people. I've set out people to say, okay, get me all the letters that these companies are writing. Any one of them that insist on this, we'll take them up at the National Assembly, we'll take them up with the minister, and we'll take them up to the anywhere that we need to ask a government. We are government, and the government cannot fold its arm and allow one multinational or some group of people to overrun the economy, all in the best interest of their own profit or KPI. It's not going to happen again.
We're going to keep a tab on you. I also like to have you to know updates as this plays out. Wish you all the best in the implementation.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Dr. Olalekan Fadolapo. There, I've been speaking to Registrar, Chief Executive Officer of APCON, Advertising Practitioners Council of Nigeria, speaking so much about AISOP. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day.